At 11 o'clock Christmas Eve, the children are all tucked in bed, at least pretending to be asleep, and you're faced with the task of assembling this electric train that you hope will steam Merry Christmas around the tree in the morning. You drag the box out from underneath the bed and you read the bold black writing on its side, instructions included. Anxious to see what you're in for, you open the box. To you, the part seems simple enough and the assembly process logical enough, so you toss away the instruction booklet and you roll up your sleeves and you go for it on your own. 2 hours later, just out of curiosity, you reach for the instruction booklet and you're horrified to find out that the diagrams look nothing like the mess you have in front of you. So realizing that your sanity is far more valuable than your pride, you take the whole thing apart and you start from scratch, this time with the instructions. So when it comes to assembling an electric train, this independent I'll do it my way attitude is relatively harmless. You can always tear the thing apart and start over, but when it comes to real issues, instead of playthings, the consequences can be irrevocable. As we've seen, the Corinthian believers were assembling their lives without following God's instructions. They were ending up with a hideous mess. So using the example of the Hebrews in the wilderness, Paul urges them to stick to the guidelines that God has given them to live by. Now let me give you a thought to consider. The cloud, the deliverance from the sea, the leadership, the food, the drink, every one of these privileges was much more than the provision of a physical need. Every one of them was an act of grace. In our lives, there is no gift, no blessing, no privilege we enjoy that meets only a surface need. With each kindness, He brushes us with a touch of His salvation. If you'll just sit still and wait, you'll feel them, subtle stirrings of His grace all around you. Let me just make a quick comment on the trek through the wilderness of your heart. In that dry, desolate desert of your heart is a piece of your character being parched in a pit, a prickly attitude sprouting the spines of sin, a patch blooming with idolatry, immorality, or mistrust, a greedy, grumbling spirit that rubs God wrong. Just remember, God's responses to the Hebrews' wilderness sins were severe and unalterable. But don't let this keep your heart wandering fearfully. Let it drive you to Jesus, the oasis where you can find the water of forgiveness and real rest. Let me give you a final thought. Jesus summarizes the whole point of this lesson in Luke chapter 12, verse 48. And from everyone who has been given much shall much be required, and to whom they entrust much, of him they will ask all the more. The Hebrews, the Corinthians, us, we are all prime examples of people God has seen fit to privilege. And all He asks in return is a gracious spirit and an obedient heart.